Good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Central YouTube channel for another student-athlete interview, this time from the football team. We haven't had many football interviews lately, so it's time to get back to football and start thinking about that big game Friday night. And joining me tonight is sophomore running back Christian Rudrud. Christian, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Nami.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the fact that you're a sophomore. We don't see sophomores usually contributing at the varsity level as much as you are. So that's a credit to you. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's start with just your stats. 268 yards rushing this year with 2 touchdowns, 132 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. And we're going to talk about that receiving ability here in a little bit. Had a big game last Friday, 55 yards rushing. Also scored one of the 2 touchdowns for the Central RiverHawks in that 15-8 win over Sparta. Christian, what were your thoughts on that game against Sparta?
Well, we didn't particularly have a good week going in, so we really weren't necessarily prepared for the game. I think towards the end we really dug down and found a way to win. So
Yeah, really. I mean, that's what it looked like too from the broadcast angle. Was you did just enough to win, basically. Certainly wasn't a pretty game, particularly offensively. Had a lot of miscues that really hurt you. Is that something that you've been, I'm sure Coach Colburn has been working with you this week to try to get that stuff cleaned up before Friday night?
yeah, I think already we noticed a difference in practice. Yesterday was all right, but today I felt like we really had a good practice.
Well, that's good to hear, especially with the art game coming up. We don't want to go into that game with a couple bad practices under our belt. So that's good to hear that you're getting that cleaned up. A lot of pre-snap penalties and then some turnovers. Hopefully those will be cleaned up for Friday night. Well, it's been a lot of fun watching you and Gavin in the backfield. You've proven to be quite the 1-2 punch. Gavin kind of running up the middle, although you've shown you can do that as well. And you being able to get to the outside. We've seen you a couple times get the edge, and the speed that you display once you get to the edge is really quite amazing. But let's talk a little bit. What's it like sharing a backfield with Gavin Shepard?
Gavin's a little bit more experienced than me because he started running back last year too, and having that prior knowledge is really helping me, and I think him knowing what he's doing really helps me a lot. So I'm very thankful to have Gavin in the backfield with me.
So he's taking you kind of under his wing a little bit
Yep.
and showed you how to work at this varsity level. We mentioned you're only a sophomore. We don't often see sophomores producing the way you're producing for this RiverHawk football team. What has that adjustment been like for you? Obviously, you have Gavin that's kind of helping you, but what has that adjustment been like playing against, 16, 17, 18-year-old guys now?
Well, it's definitely different than playing freshman football. Freshman is kind of just, get outside and try and outrun everybody. And you can't necessarily do that on the freshman level. So you gotta take what you can get and keep your legs turning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just tell people if they didn't watch you play at the freshman level, that's exactly what you did, was get outside and outrun everybody. I remember a lot of those carries, and you could see pretty early on that you were going to be a force to be reckoned with in the backfield for the Riverhawks for a long time to come. One of the things that's really impressed me these last couple games, teams have been stacking the box a little bit against us. They're making it hard on Gavin to get going. He's still getting his 3, 4, 5 yards, but he's having a hard time getting to that second level because there's so many defenders in there. They've had to try to run you outside to get some yardage that way, but also you've become quite a receiving threat. And I think that's been key to opening up the offense a little bit when the offense gets a little stagnant. Is that something you pride yourself in, being able to catch the ball out of the backfield?
Yeah, I think me being able to catch the ball goes back to just playing catch with my dad when I was a little kid. He'd have me run routes and I'd be making catches, and that.
And it shows today. I mean, thank you, Dad, for doing that with Christian, because it's been a big thing for this offense the last 2 weeks. We didn't see it really early on, but as teams have adjusted and started figuring out what we're trying to do offensively, we've had to get a little more creative, and Christian shown another aspect of his game by being able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Well, I can't talk to a running back without talking about the offensive line. We got to give them some love once in a while. What are your thoughts on our offensive line and the work they've been doing?
I love my big boys up front. I've gotten pretty close to them this year, and I'm really thankful for them. And they've done their job pretty well this year. So,
And that's shown by the yards that both you and Gavin have been able to get on the ground without an offensive line, without people that can move the other team. It doesn't matter if you have Barry Sanders in the backfield; he ain't going anywhere.
Yep.
So big shout out to that offensive line. I know you're passionate about football. I know it's something that means a lot to you. What's your favorite part about playing football? Why are you so passionate about it?
I think it's just for a lot of people, it's just where you can be yourself. You know, you got problems going on, you can just let everything out on the football field, and you know.
You don't get in trouble for showing your aggression and for hitting
Oh,
other guys. And yeah,
oh.
absolutely. There's certainly something to be said for that. Well, Friday night, obviously, big game. It's ARC week this week. We're going to be having some special interviews on the YouTube channel coming up here soon regarding the ARC game. I just want to know, what do you think about Logan? We know that their record isn't great, but when you look at their record, it's a little bit deceiving because they've had some close losses. Have you seen any film on Logan? What can we expect from the Logan Rangers on Friday night?
Yeah, like you said, Logan's record doesn't really represent what kind of a team they are. I think they're a really good team, and those close games really came down to the wire. And realistically, they should not have that bad of a record. They're a really good team, and that little two quarterback system that they got, they're pretty dangerous. So we've got our hands full.
Definitely will present some challenges for the RiverHawks. I think pretty much everybody I've talked to this week says it's going to be a close game. It's going to depend on how the ball bounces, who can not have the most penalties, and who can hang on to the ball, and all those things that become so important in a close football game. So definitely excited about that. I have a question for you logistically about a game like Logan with the ARC on the line. There's a lot of hoopla that goes around with that. Okay, the whole city is kind of a buzz with excitement for this game every year. On top of that, it's your last home game of the regular season. We're going to have parent night and senior night and all kinds of extra things going on other than just playing football. Christian, how do you stay focused and make sure that you remember what the task at hand is? And then on top of that, as a sophomore, how do you help the other guys make sure they stay focused?
Well, it's almost like right when I step on the field, I'm just completely locked into what I'm doing. I I really don't care too much about anything else, and I'm just ready to play. Like, I'm just really locked in. And
That's
for the
all.
rest of the guys, I mean, just keeping everybody locked in. Somebody starts messing around, get them going the right way, and usually we don't even have any of that. Everybody usually does their part and is pretty ready to go.
Absolutely. I know Coach Olson has you guys trained really well with that, putting on those blinders and being focused on the task at hand. Of course, the task at hand, 1-0 on Friday night when we host the Logan Rangers in the ARC game. We'll have lots of history about the ARC coming up here soon. We'll have a really special interview coming up. And of course, we'll have the game Friday night from UWL. We'll be live on the Central YouTube channel. The weather's supposed to be crappy Friday night. So if you don't want to go out there and brave the weather, you can certainly watch from your living room, maybe with the fireplace going. It's supposed to be like a high of 47, I saw. So you can stay and watch at home. Joel and I will be on the call. Pre-game starting at 6:45. Game time is 7 o'clock, and we'll see who's going to be taking the ARC home this year. Christian, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join me. It's exciting to see some of the young bucks making plays for this RiverHawk team. Gives us hope for the future, and it's exciting that you're going to be in that backfield for a couple more years after this. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
And fans, thank you for tuning in. Remember that we also have volleyball tomorrow night. That'll be Thursday night when the Logan Rangers come to town and play in, well, I guess they don't come to town because they're already in town, but they come to the south side and they're playing at Central. Joel will be on the call for that. Well, the varsity reserve game starting at 5:30 for you. No play-by-play for that, but you'll be able to watch and see how the varsity reserve team does. And then live play-by-play starting at 7 o'clock. Wow, the game starts at 7 o'clock. Joel will be on the air with pregame probably about 6:45. So if you're thinking of what am I going to do Thursday and Friday night, Thursday night is volleyball, Friday night is football. Make sure you tune in on the Central YouTube channel. We'll be covering it all for you. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.